Hi everyone and welcome to the University of Law podcast. I'm Darren Broad and I studied my LLB law degree at the University of Law Bristol campus, and I am now studying my LPC MSc at the University of Law Moorgate campus. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Jessica Massie to discuss building resilience and independence whilst at the University of Law. Hi Jess, would you like to introduce ourselves to our listeners?
Yeah, hi, thank you. Yeah, so as I say, my name's Jessica. I am one of the mental health advisors based here at ULaw. So I cover the Moorgate campus as well as a couple of others, Birmingham, Norwich and Nottingham. I'm part of a kind of small team. There's 4 of us plus our manager, and yeah, we kind of support students on a one-to-one basis. So some of you guys listening may have met me before, but yeah, that's me.
Brilliant. So we've got a few questions for you today, but hopefully we can have a nice discussion around quite a few topics. So the first one we had was, in terms of mental health support, what does the University of Law offer students struggling to adapt to, a new way of life?
Yeah, so I think kind of the main thing to think about, so there's sort of online resources as well as sort of the actual kind of support services that are available. So there's definitely a range out there. So the team that I kind of work within, like I say, we're called the Mental Health Service, and we're made up of mental health advisors. And we tend to work with students who are maybe struggling, to the point that they maybe need a little bit more specialised support. So maybe, as you mentioned, if you're struggling with a transition or maybe social isolation, and it's getting to the point that that's causing you a lot of anxiety and low mood, that's maybe the point that you might be referred to myself or one of my colleagues. However, we also have the Wellbeing Service, which is like the first protocol for all ULaw students in terms of wellbeing or mental health concerns. So if you've kind of recently started your course and you're finding that you're struggling with the transition, and you'd maybe just like, a little bit of emotional support and maybe some advice and around sort of integrating into the university and managing that transition a wee bit better, we definitely say kind of like the wellbeing advisors that are based at each campus is the best person to go to initially. You can find the students can find all their kind of email addresses for each campus on the Elite page, and it's just a case of sending them an email and letting them know kind of what you're struggling with. So like I say, that's the kind of general sort of first thing to do if you feel like you're struggling with that transition or social isolation. But I think it's really good, kind of important to remember that also sort of each course has student journey advisors, and their kind of role is to, each student would be designated a student journey advisor when you kind of enroll on the course. But yeah, so and also like your academic coaches, just the academic staff that are on your course as well, definitely speaking to them. But a lot of people maybe don't realise when they first join the university is that we also have a partnership with an organisation called Spectrum Life, and they're kind of those, so they do something called a student assistance programme. And essentially what that is it's 24/7, 365 days a year, sort of remote telephone support that students can access. So even if it's, on a weekend or an evening when services like my team would be closed, that's something that's available to students to kind of just call up and access. But they also offer free counselling sessions to students. So again, if that transition has been particularly difficult and you'd like a safe, kind of confidential space to talk that through, contacting Spectrum Life. So yeah, and the thing is sort of external private therapy and counselling, it's either, can be a really long waiting list or it can be really expensive. So I recommend students definitely make use of that service if they can. And you can access that at any point in your course as well. So maybe that initial transition has been difficult for you. However, once you're kind of settled onto your course, things are easier. But then maybe, a year into your course, you may feel like you need support again, and that's what we're here for. So yeah, definitely make a note of that. And also just remembering, everybody's in the same boat. Some people might see their peers and think that they're thriving more than they are in social situations and things. But actually, when everybody's enrolling onto their course and starting something new, 99% of students are feeling the same and have those same anxieties. Absolutely. So yeah, it's just important to remember that you're not alone in this and that we're here to help.
Yeah, absolutely. So the support your team offers is very much on a ongoing basis.
Yeah, definitely. So, and it depends on the team because, like I say, we have a lot of different teams within student services. But like, for example, the disability service, you might get adjustments and things for your exams when you first start your course. But it may be that further down the line, you get a new diagnosis and you need further adjustments. So you can book an appointment, another one at any point with them. Or like with the mental health team with us, it may be that you've had some support from us and it's short term because that's kind of what we offer, and that you may be discharged and feel okay for a while, but then maybe in the second year of your course things may get difficult again and you need to kind of meet with your wellbeing advisor again and try and access some more support. So yeah, definitely keeping in mind that we're here for your whole student journey, but likewise that initial transition onto the course, we also recognise how important it is to get support at that time too.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
No problem.
So the next question that we had was that for some students, this can be quite an overwhelming time. So do you have any tips or advice for students who maybe struggle to sort of meet people for the first time and begin to socialise? Yeah,
so I think, there's a couple of things to think about with this question. And I suppose one of them is thinking of some of those more fun social opportunities, like, the SU, getting in touch with them, the student union, in regard to things like societies and, some of those more enjoyable sort of activities and social opportunities. But we appreciate that that's not for everyone. And I think something that's, if you're actually getting support from maybe like a wellbeing advisor or someone like myself within mental health, actually kind of chatting to us about, because, they're like, we work specifically with for specific campuses. So it means that we kind of get to know the local area and like the community and might be aware of some things that are actually, external to the university that you could access or tap into. But I also think it's one thing that's sort of, I suppose, specific to ULaw is that the actual size of the university and the size of like the classes are fairly small. And I think that presents a good opportunity to be able to meet your peers in a less overwhelming way. Because I know when I was a student, the kind of course I did, we would be in a lecture theatre of 300 people. And I can imagine for some people who maybe have things like social anxiety, that kind of setting could be really challenging. But certainly in small kind of tutor groups, and then the kind of setup that ULaw has, it presents a bit more of an opportunity to access, well, not to access, but to get to know your peers a bit better.
Yeah, no, I've definitely found that too, especially on my degree and my LPC. The class sizes have always remained, consistently quite small. We've had a few bigger lectures, but it's been really nice to be able to quite easily get to know my table and then everyone else in the class. And then on a sort of Thursday when we'd have our last class, someone would say, oh, do you want to head out for a drink or something? Yeah. And that, especially for me, I'm fairly introverted. So that's really nice to feel like, actually, I'm really comfortable with this group now. Yeah, let's go and do that. Whereas, if I was in a lecture theatre of, like you say, 150 plus or something like that, I'd probably just sort of turn up and then run away and go straight home. So I 100% agree. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that actually ties in with, something in terms of like employment as well. I mean, when I know my lived experience of moving to London, I didn't come here for a course. I came here for work. But, it's because when you're in like a team rather than, like you say, like a big group of you, it is easier to make friends. So if you are in a position to be able to look for part-time work, while you're studying, or something like, if you're able to factor that into, your weekly routine, it is definitely something to consider for meeting people because, and it also just means meeting people that are kind of separate from your course. You're kind of getting a wider range of people that you're meeting if you've just moved to a new city, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, throughout my degree, and I mean, on my LPC now, I've had various like different part-time jobs. So, I worked for Lush for 4 years. And how have you found it, like juggling like your course and employment? Have you found that quite manageable? Has it been okay? Yeah, generally, I think, my top tip on that is always just to sort of plan out your week ahead, plan your time. Sure. I've always had a paper diary. It's a bit old fashioned. No, I'm the same. But it works for me. And just work out what you're capable of taking on. Generally, one shift a week was enough for me because I did a bit of volunteering and things like that. So I think knowing your limits as well, because people can take on different amounts and force themselves to do different things. So I think that would be my top tip in that respect. Yeah, for sure. And I think that actually ties into, what
can often be problematic for a lot of students is starting a university degree, especially if you maybe moved to a new city and you're quite excited about that, is the partying and the social side of it. So on the flip side to maybe struggling to meet people, if you're somebody who's quite extroverted and you like to go out and have a good time, that's absolutely great, and it means you're making the most of your university experience. But try not to burn yourself out too quickly between studying, going out and socializing, and working. We do find some students maybe get like 6 months into their course, and because they've had so much on at that point, it's describing feelings of burnout and things, and then that's when things like your exams and stuff can become quite tricky, because you're just feeling really exhausted and fatigued. It's just to be aware of definitely pacing yourself and just making time for the relaxation, self-care activities, as well as some of those those more busier kind of activities as well.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. I think especially, a lot of the students that will come to the University of Law will be law students. Yeah. Obviously, we've got, business and criminology and lots of other great courses, but it's a very professional environment. And I think there is generally quite a lot of pressure from day one to enter this high-paced, competitive legal business career. So just sort of taking a step back, working out your workload and what you can manage is so important, because from day one, it's sort of training contracts, vacation schemes, or you're getting other careers sort of pushed in your face, which is brilliant because you've got all that support, but it can be a bit...
It's a lot.
Overwhelming if you don't know how to sort of take that in and go, right, let's process this my way, essentially.
And I think the point you made about, and like I say, I'm the same about using a paper diary, it sounds really old fashioned, but I sometimes, when I'm working with a student who's struggling with fatigue and burnout, I say, like, let's strip it back to basics and actually do just make some kind of timetable for your week that factors in self-care activities, factors in relaxation, factors in like hobbies and socializing, but then also obviously the commitments that you have, and actually just taking it back to that level and saying that I need to be making time. So, even using like timers and alarms and things on your phone to remind you to like, I'm going to switch off from this now and take a bit of time for me and things like that. I think balance is the key thing for students, is balance, so that you're not feeling too fatigued, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I know throughout my degree I was an air cadet, which was a hobby I really enjoyed, and that was Tuesdays and Thursday evenings. So I think as I got into a weekly routine, in my head that time just didn't exist. For anything else, I knew that was blocked off. So it was like, it allowed me to really get into this routine of planning. Okay, well, I've got Monday, Wednesdays and Fridays because that's my time for that. And I'm not going to, unless I really had to, I didn't want to compromise on that because it was something I enjoyed. Definitely.
No, for sure. I definitely think, and that's a perfect example of something that, is going to take up like, a couple of evenings a week. But actually, I think, and again, I often, say this to students in appointments if they're coming to me with something like burnout and fatigue, is around, it's one thing to have a lot of commitments and be really busy with your week, but it's how much of those commitments and how much of those activities are you enjoying? Because let's face it, things like studying and, for some people, their part-time job might be a bit of a chore. So you might find that you're busy, but actually, are you enjoying all of those busy commitments that you've got on? So actually taking the time to factor in something that is just for you can really help your university experience, for sure. Yeah,
100%. I think they're all brilliant points.
Yeah, definitely.
So another question that we had come through is that for quite a lot of students, moving away from home is quite a big stress. And I totally understand that.
Definitely.
Learning to cope without their sort of usual support network. So what advice would you give to students in finding independence and building resilience in coping on their own?
Yeah, so I think, just to start off with, I think the actual, if you are somebody that is moving away from home, you're moving to a new city, maybe it's the first time you're living on your own, things like that in itself is going to build resilience. That in itself is a big achievement. And I think going in with that positive spin on it already, because I think that's, it's something that, especially in things like, therapy, when people get things like CPD and that, one of the components of that, if you will, is about challenging your unhelpful thinking styles. So I think trying to challenge that anxiety that you've got about moving out and seeing it as such an achievement and such a positive step is a great kind of first step in, in sort of building your confidence with that. But I think, it's sort of really important to well, as I mentioned earlier, remembering that other people in the same boat. So if you're feeling like you're alone in things and you feel really isolated, coming and talking to us, accessing the sort of mental health support and the wellbeing support that's available to you, because actually, it's okay to ask for help. And I think you made a really good point earlier about the kind of courses that we do here at this university that can be very fast paced. And, a lot of people, are maybe here with a training contract with a firm, and they might feel that it's quite competitive and things, but actually, we're all human beings. We all have emotions, and it's absolutely okay to ask for help. So, and the thing is if, even after, transitioning and, and making that leap to move away from home and things, it may be that, you do continue to struggle. And again, that's okay. That might be where you're maybe needing to think, do I need to change the campus I'm working at, so maybe a little bit closer to home, or vice versa? It may be that you're living at home and actually, your confidence is building on your course. You're maybe getting to know some of your peers, and you maybe want to switch course to actually be to a new, to move to a new city, and that in itself. So, like I say, trying to have that positive, trying to look at this transition and this chapter in your life as a positive. It's not easy to do, but it's really important to do so that you can make the most out of it. But then, like I say, also accessing the support and help that you are entitled to if you are struggling, and asking for that help. Because I know that sometimes that's the hardest thing to do when you're struggling, is actually saying, I'm not feeling great about this. I need some help. But that's what we're here for. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know I spent my degree in Bristol, and then I've moved to London for my LPC, because I think at 18 I wasn't ready to move out. I think so many of my friends were off to different cities, and I just that was something I personally wasn't ready for, and I'm so glad I didn't force myself to do that. And then now when I've moved out for my postgraduate course, it's been really great, because I feel ready, I feel set up. Obviously it was still a huge adjustment. And it was I'm now living on my own, and I've got to do everything on my own. But it's been a much sort of nicer transition now, which I've enjoyed.
No, and I think that's actually a really good point that you make there about, knowing, trusting your feelings and trusting yourself in terms of what feels right. Because I remember I left school when I was 17, and I had the grades to go straight into university, but I mean, college and university is kind of slightly different up in Scotland in terms of the courses. So I won't kind of get into that because some of our listeners might not know what I mean. But essentially what I ended up doing was doing this college course sort of after the end of school, more just because, for the exact same reason as you, I felt like I needed another year at home so that I could better manage that transition. So like I say, trusting your own gut feeling and trusting what feels right for you. Some people, we all have different experiences in life. So some people, may feel more prepared than others. And that doesn't, that is nothing bad. There's no issue with that. Everybody is different. And some people might find that actually, they do sort of their whole, maybe like an undergrad degree and a postgrad degree from home. Other people might move out when they're 17. Taking that pressure off yourself and trying to think about things positively and without the spin of, this is really competitive, I need to be doing this, I need to be doing that. Definitely trying to take that pressure off yourself will help you adapt and build that resilience for sure.
Yeah. And I think definitely going off the back of what you said earlier, even though I've moved out and that was the right time for me, there were still moments where, I was on FaceTime to my mum having a cry. Yeah. Everyone has, I think, these struggles, and I think it's really helpful to normalize that, because, I'm fortunate to have a training contract, and you'll see me posting on LinkedIn, etc. But, I'm still sat in my flat having a cry every now and again to my mum, because I'm a normal human being.
And I think that's actually a really good point in terms of, what I was mentioning about, you're not alone. Even if your peers seem like they're excelling in X, Y, and Z, they're probably struggling with the same things that you maybe are. And I think a really big component to that is, not to sound old fashioned, but is actually what social media, and the impact that has on us. Everybody is posting their best days. Everybody is posting them looking great out on a run. Everyone's posting a great night out with friends, all dolled up, things like that. But actually what we're not seeing is those nights when, like, I've got an exam coming up, I'm really missing home. I'm feeling really isolated. All my flatmates, are away for the weekend. I'm on my own. I'm not sure what to do. I'm having a cry. That's not the side that people show, that other students are going to show on social media. So don't be fooled that, you're the only one struggling. And like I say, and even if you feel that you are, there's professionals within the university that you can come to, that this is our job to support you, and that's what we're here for. So yeah, make use of that and don't just feel like you're alone in this situation, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And I think coming on to, I guess, the second part of the question more, I think in terms of like building independence and resilience, I think my top tip, well, that's top tip, but I think from my learned experience, from what I did, was just try and put myself out of my comfort zone where I can. Like you said, don't force yourself to be doing a million different things because you feel like you're competing against everyone. But, going for it and trying a bit of pro bono. I ended up representing people in the magistrates courts and doing things like that during my degree. And all those experiences within my week where I could make time for that just helped me to build on loads of transferable skills and feel a little bit more confident over the course of like 3 years. So that, from when I walked in from the first day on first year to when I left, it sounds really cheesy, but I definitely was a different person. Just because over the course of that time, I've done different things and taken on different experiences. I think that's my thoughts on that, but I don't know if you had anything to add.
That's a brilliant point. And actually, I suppose this is kind of, it's in line with the question, but I guess kind of changing the subject slightly. But it was just actually, you got me thinking there about just something in terms of like a tip to, or to suggest to kind of students listening is, all you law students, you have sort of free access to this online platform called Together All, that you can just, the website is, you'll find links to it on like the wellbeing page on Elite and things like that. You can get the link to it, but essentially it's an online platform that's kind of like a peer-to-peer one for students, and it can be anonymous. So it's kind of, so not only does it have like resources around like wellbeing and mental health, things like what we were mentioning around, self-care, like routine planners and little tools and things like that. But actually what it has is this tool that a lot of students have found really helpful, is that anonymous peer-to-peer support, because it's other students. So like I say, it doesn't have to be like your name. And actually this peer-to-peer platform, it's kind of overseen by mental health and wellbeing professionals. So it's actually checked, so that if there is any sort of, if anyone posts anything that could be quite risky or anything like that, that's all checked. However, it's a nice way of actually connecting with other students who are maybe going through a difficult thing as well. So yeah, just off the back of that, it's just something to suggest to students to keep an eye out, to check out that website, because it's just somewhere that you can maybe find some other people that are kind of like relating to you. And like I say, you can post anonymously if if you do have any questions that maybe other students can answer for you, but you don't have the confidence to maybe ask in class and things. And also at the University of Law, we do actually have, a process called campus switching. So that means kind of, if you're maybe struggling with the, because of where you're living and you maybe want to move closer to home, or maybe you actually, you want to move away because you now feel ready, there is an option called campus switch, and it's basically where, without kind of any implications or anything to do with your fees, you're able to kind of move campuses. But another option with that is also switching to online. So there is the online campus, if you want to call it that, with ULaw, which essentially allows that's kind of online classes.
Brilliant. Well, that was such a great conversation today, Jess. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. And I hope, you guys listening have gotten something out of this. But it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Have a lovely day.
Yeah, you as well.